The space station shook like a dying animal as explosions echoed through its long metal halls. Lights flickered, alarms screamed, and fire danced across broken pipes. Captain Ryland pushed forward, breathing hard, holding the small alien girl close to his chest. Her name was Lira, and her skin glowed softly in the dark, like starlight underwater. She was only 9 years old, but every army in this part of the galaxy wanted her. Ryland ran through the smoke, trying to ignore the pain in his legs. He had fought in 3 wars, survived 7 planets collapsing, and lost more teammates than he could count. But nothing felt as dangerous as this night. The entire station was falling apart, and 3 different armies were closing in from every direction. Behind him, Lira cried softly. Her small fingers gripped the front of his armor. "You're not my real dad," she whispered between tears. Ryland didn't slow down. He didn't look at her. He just said, "Maybe not. But I'm the only one who came for you." Another blast shook the floor. A ceiling panel crashed behind them, barely missing their heads. Ryland kept running. He turned a corner and slid behind a large metal pillar. He needed a moment to breathe and to check how close the enemy was. Lira lifted her head. Her glowing blue eyes widened. "They are coming," she said. "All of them." Ryland trusted her. Lira had a strange ability. She could sense danger before it happened, like she could feel the air vibrate with fear. He peeked out carefully, and then he saw them. 3 landing crafts were docking on the outside of the station. Their shadows showed 3 different symbols, 3 different armies, the red mark of the Dominion Empire, who wanted to use Lira as a weapon, the silver mark of the Machine Collective, cold machines who wanted to take her apart to understand her powers, and the blue mark of the Lost Tribe, who believed she was their star child, a living key to ancient cosmic energy. Any one of them could wipe out the station. All 3 together would bring hell. Ryland's throat tightened. "Okay, kid," he whispered. "We need to move, now." He held her hand, and they ran again. The fire got worse. The metal city around them trembled like it was about to collapse. Lira stumbled, but Ryland pulled her back up gently. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, voice shaking. "Why didn't you leave me like the others?" Ryland didn't have time to explain. He had found Lira locked inside a cold lab room, alone, crying, abandoned by scientists when the attack began. She reminded him of someone, a memory he buried deep years ago. A child he failed to protect. He wasn't going to fail again. They reached a long bridge that connected to the escape bay. But half the bridge was gone, blown apart. Only a narrow metal beam remained. Ryland froze. Great. Perfect. He looked down. A huge burning pit waited below. Lira stepped forward, strangely calm. "I can do it," she said softly. Her forehead crystal glowed brighter. The air around her shimmered. The metal beam stopped shaking, as if an invisible hand held it steady. Her power. Ryland nodded. "Good job. Don't stop." He walked slowly, balancing with one hand on the wall, holding Lira with the other. Each step felt like a gamble with death. Halfway across, the beam groaned loudly. Lira gasped. "They see us." Ryland looked back. Dominion soldiers had entered the hall. Their red armor lit up with targeting lasers. He didn't think. He grabbed Lira, sprinted the last few steps, and jumped. They crashed onto the other side, just as laser shots exploded behind them. Ryland rolled over, panting. "Okay, that was too close." Lira looked at him with fear. "You're hurt." He touched his arm, blood, but he forced a smile. "I live." They reached the escape bay doors. Ryland pressed the panel, but it didn't open. "Locked?" He muttered. "No," Lira said. "Someone is inside." Ryland drew his blaster and pushed the door open, just enough to peek in. There, sitting on the floor next to the escape shuttle, was a man in a torn flight suit. He aimed a weapon at Ryland's head, Back away! The man shouted. Rylan stepped inside slowly. We don't want trouble. You brought trouble, the man said. 3 armies. They are all coming here. Lira hid behind Rylan. Please, she said softly. We just need a ship. The man's eyes widened when he saw her glowing face. Fear took over. You're the girl they're fighting over. Raylan took a slow step forward. Listen, you won't survive if you stay here. Let us take the ship, and you run to the lower levels. Maybe you'll find another escape pod. The man hesitated. He looked at the door shaking under explosions. He looked at Lira, trembling and scared. Finally, he lowered the weapon. Take it, just go. Rylan nodded. Thank you. He carried Lira into the small shuttle and placed her in a seat. He powered the engines as more explosions hit the station. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. As they lifted off, Lira looked out the window. The 3 armies' ships surrounded the station like wolves circling prey. We will never escape, she whispered. Rylan grinned sharply. Kid, humans always find a way. The shuttle burst through the fire as the station collapsed behind them. The shuttle shook like a leaf in a storm as it blasted away from the burning station. Smoke trailed behind it, and sparks shot out from the engines. Captain Rylan gripped the controls tightly, trying to keep the ship steady, but every alarm inside the cockpit screamed danger. Lira sat in the co-pilot seat, holding her knees to her chest. Her glowing skin dimmed every time the ship shook. Are we going to die? She whispered. Rylan gave a small smile, not confident, but brave. Not today, kid. Not if I can help it. Outside the window, 3 army ships streaked across the dark space like angry comets. Red lasers flew past them. Dominion fighters chased their tail. The machine collective drones scanned for their heat. And the Lost Tribe's silent golden ships drifted like ghosts. Waiting to corner them, Rylan pushed every button he could find. Come on, he muttered. Hold together. The shuttle didn't listen. A loud boom blasted from the back, and the ship tilted sharply. Lira screamed and grabbed the seat. Engine 2 is gone. Rylan said. We're going down, but down where? Lira asked. Rylan looked ahead and froze. A giant planet rose in front of them, covered in thick green forests and glowing blue oceans. Lightning storms twisted around tall mountains like angry serpents. I don't know what planet this is, Rylan said. But it's the only one we can reach. The shuttle dropped into the planet's atmosphere. Fire streaked across the windows as the heat shields glowed red. The whole ship shook so hard, Rylan thought it might tear apart at any second. Lira covered her ears. It hurts, she whispered. The planet. It is calling. Rylan didn't understand, but he didn't have time to ask. Hold on, Lira. We're about to crash. They broke through the clouds, but the sight below made Rylan swear under his breath. The planet wasn't peaceful. Strange vines wrapped around giant trees like snakes. Mist moved across the ground like it was alive. And something huge, with glowing red eyes ran through the jungle, watching them. Rylan fought the controls. But the shuttle dipped lower and lower. This is going to hurt, he muttered. The shuttle slammed into the trees. Branches smashed against the windows. Metal screamed as it tore apart. The ship spun, crashed through the canopy, and finally hit the ground with a massive thud. Silence followed. A long, cold silence. Rylan opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt, but he was alive. The cockpit was dark, except for sparks from broken wires. Smoke drifted in the air. Lira? He called. No answer. He unbuckled his seatbelt and forced himself to stand. Lira, where are you? A small cough came from behind him. Rylan turned quickly. Lira sat against the wall, shaking but alive. Her glowing skin flickered like a weak candle. Rylan knelt beside her. You okay? I think so, she whispered. My head hurts, but I can move. Raylan sighed with relief. Good. We need to get out of the ship before something else explodes. He opened the emergency door. Humid, warm jungle air rushed in. The ground outside was covered with thick green moss that swallowed their footsteps. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was the silence. No birds. No wind, no insects. Only the sound of their breathing. Lira stepped closer to Raylan. This place feels wrong, she whispered. It feels angry. Raylan looked around. Stay close. We find shelter first. They walked into the jungle. Strange glowing flowers opened as they passed, releasing blue dust into the air. Raylan waved it away. Don't touch anything, he warned. We don't know what's poisonous. But Lira wasn't looking at the flowers. Her eyes were fixed on the shadows between the trees. Something is watching us, she said. Many somethings. Raylan's hand moved to his blaster. Let them watch. We keep moving. They pushed deeper into the jungle. The air grew thicker. The plants grew larger, some as tall as buildings, with leaves as wide as shuttle wings. Lira shivered every few steps. This planet remembers me, she whispered. But I have never been here. Raylan frowned. Kid, nobody remembers you. That's the problem. Before she could answer, a loud roar shook the trees. Birds, massive ones with metal-like feathers, burst into the sky. The ground trembled under Raylan's feet. Run, he said quietly. A huge beast stepped from the shadows. It stood taller than a tank, with sharp bone armor covering its body. Its glowing red eyes locked onto Lira. Raylan grabbed her hand. Move! They ran through the jungle as the beast crashed after them, smashing trees like toys. Raylan fired his blaster, but the shots bounced off the creature's armor. Lira stumbled. The beast roared and lunged. Raylan jumped in front of her dot, and then the ground beneath them cracked open. They fell into a deep, hidden tunnel as the beast roared above them. The darkness swallowed them whole. The fall felt endless. Raylan held Lira close as they dropped through darkness, dust and roots brushing their skin. For a moment, he thought they would hit the ground and break into pieces. But instead, they landed hard on something soft, thick moss that glowed faintly green. Raylan groaned and pushed himself up. His ribs hurt, his knees ached, and he felt older than ever. But he was alive. Again. Lira sat beside him, shaking. Her glowing skin flickered weakly. Are we safe? She whispered. He listened. The beast above them roared in frustration. Its heavy footsteps moved away from the hole. Raylan let out a short breath. Safe for now. He looked around. They were in a deep underground tunnel. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, circles, lines that pulsed with soft gold light. Some looked almost like stars. Others looked like maps. Lira stared at them, her eyes wide. These symbols. I've seen them before. Raylan froze. Where? In my dreams, she whispered. Since I was very small. Raylan looked at her more closely. The glowing crystal on her forehead was brighter now, reacting to the wall symbols. This place knows me, she said. Raylan swallowed. He had seen a lot of strange things in the galaxy. But this was different. This felt planned. Like the planet itself expected her. He stood slowly. Come on. We need to find a way out before that beast comes back. But Lira didn't move. She walked toward the wall and placed her small hand on one of the glowing spirals. The walls responded instantly. A deep hum rolled through the tunnel. Light flowed across the symbols like water rushing through a river. The floor shook gently. Then a hidden door slid open with a soft hiss. Raylan stared. Lira, how did you do that? She looked frightened. I don't know, it just... Listen to me. Raylan pointed toward the door. Well, let's see what's inside. They stepped through the opening. The inside chamber was massive, bigger than the shuttle hangar they escaped from. Tall pillars of crystal rose from the ground, glowing softly with pale blue light. In the center of the room sat a smooth metallic table, covered in dust but still humming with energy. "It looks old," Rylan whispered. Lira shook her head. "No, it feels awake." She walked slowly toward the table. Raylan followed, blaster ready, eyes scanning every shadow. When they reached the center, Lira touched the edge of the table. It lit up instantly, showing hologram stars, planets, spirals of galaxies. Rylan stepped back. "What is this?" Lira studied the images. "It is telling a story." One by one, the holograms changed. A star exploded. A wave of energy spread across space. A strange glowing shape, something like a child, formed from the light. Then armies appeared, Dominion ships, machine collective drones, ancient lost tribe fleets. They all reached toward the glowing child. Rylan felt cold. "They all want the same thing," Lira whispered. "Me." The hologram changed again. It showed something terrifying. The glowing child Lira stood in the center of a planet. Her body shone like a miniature star. Waves of power exploded from her, destroying everything around her. Cities vanished. Armies burned. Planets cracked. Raylan grabbed her shoulders. "Hey, stop looking. It's just some ancient story." But Lyra's voice cracked. "It is not a story, look." The table changed once more. It showed Lira, standing next to Rylan. Same height. Same crystal. Same glowing veins. "This is me," she whispered. "And you." Rylan stepped back, shaken. "I'm not in any ancient prophecy, kid. That's impossible." But the hologram didn't lie. It showed Lira being protected by a human soldier. It showed him pulling her away from 3 armies. It showed him carrying her into a beam of light, something like a doorway. A final symbol flashed above the hologram. "The key must choose its guardian." Lira hugged herself. "I don't want to be a key," she said. "I don't want to destroy planets. I don't want armies chasing me." Rylan knelt down. "Kid, listen. People write stories. They get things wrong. Prophecies, myths. They twist over time. But I know one thing. You're not a weapon." Lira looked at him with scared eyes. "Then what am I?" Before Rylan could answer, the chamber lights flickered. Heavy footsteps echoed from the tunnel behind them. Rylan raised his blaster. Machine collective drones rolled into the chamber, red sensors glowing like eyes. Their metallic bodies clicked as they transformed into battle mode. Lira gasped. "They found us." Rylan stood in front of her. "Stay behind me." The drones spoke in cold, empty voices. Subject Lira identified. Genetic key located. Prepare for retrieval. Lira trembled. "What do they want from me?" Rylan aimed at the drones. "Everything." Laser beams lit up the room as the drones advanced. Rylan fired back, yelling, "Run, Lira! Run!" The chamber exploded into chaos. The chamber filled with blinding light as laser beams shot across the air. Sparks exploded against the crystal pillars. Rylan fired again and again, his blaster heating up in his hand. But the machine collective drones kept pushing forward with cold, silent purpose. "Lira! Move!" he shouted. The girl stumbled backward, eyes wide, her skin glowing brighter with fear. The table-sized hologram flickered violently behind her as she tried to run toward the far exit. But the drones were faster. 3 of them broke off from the main group and circled around, blocking her path. Their metal limbs shifted with a clicking sound, forming long mechanical arms that reached toward her. Rylan saw the danger. "No!" he roared. He sprinted forward, blaster ready. But a drone jumped in front of him and slammed him into a pillar. The impact knocked the air from his lungs. His blaster skidded across the floor. Rylan groaned, struggled to stand, but the drone pinned him with an iron grip around his throat. Red sensors glowed inches from his face. Human interference detected, the machine said. Neutralize. Raylan kicked, punched, fought with everything he had, but the metal hand squeezed tighter. He could barely breathe. Don't hurt him. Lira cried. She raised her hands, glowing with blue light, energy gathering around her like a storm. The air shook. The crystals hummed for a moment. The drones hesitated. Then one of them fired a small dart into her shoulder. Lira gasped, the glow fading instantly. Her knees buckled. She fell to the floor, weak and trembling. Ryland's heart froze. Lira! The drone holding him released its grip, just long enough for him to drop to one knee. He wasn't free, but he could breathe again. Two other drones lifted Lyra's fragile body. The dart left a small black mark on her skin. What did you do to her? Raylan growled. Stabilizing agent administered, one drone replied. Subject's energy output reduced for safe transport. Transport. No. They were taking her. The machines began backing out of the chamber, carrying Lira as if she weighed nothing. Her head hung forward, eyes half closed, barely conscious. Ryland fought like a trapped animal. He twisted, pulled, slammed his elbow into the drone restraining him. Let her go. The machine didn't react. Instead, it hit him with a shock pulse. Electricity tore through his body. He collapsed to the ground, muscles twitching. The room blurred. Through the ringing in his ears, he heard Lira whisper faintly, Rylan. Just before she passed out completely, her crystal flickered one last time. Then the drones disappeared into the tunnel with her. Rylan tried to stand, but his legs refused to listen. His vision swam. His chest felt on fire. He dragged himself across the floor, inch by inch. His hand reached the blaster, but before he could grab it, a new sound echoed from the walls. The chamber door sealed itself shut. Ryland punched the floor in frustration. No, no, no! He forced himself up using a broken pillar for support. He staggered to the sealed door and slammed his fist against it. Lira, I'm coming for you. Do you hear me? I'm coming. Silence answered him. The machines were already far away. Ryland leaned against the cold metal, breathing hard. He had survived countless battles. He had lost friends, teams, even family. But nothing felt like this sudden emptiness. Inside him, he had promised to protect her, and he had failed. But only for now. Ryland straightened slowly. He wiped the blood from his mouth. He picked up his blaster and checked the charge. Okay, he muttered to himself. Think. He walked back into the chamber. The hologram table flickered weakly, showing small sparks of light, like it remembered what happened. Show me where they took her, Ryland said. The table reacted to his voice. A map appeared, lines of light twisting through tunnels under the jungle. One path glowed red. A small symbol marked the end. Machine Collective Extraction Site. Good, Ryland said. Now show me another way in. The map shifted. A different path lit up a narrow tunnel system under the planet's roots. Dangerous, unstable, full of warning symbols, Ryland smiled. Perfect. He grabbed a broken crystal shard from the floor sharp enough to use as a blade and strapped it to his belt. Then he tore a piece of cloth from a fallen banner and wrapped it around his injured arm. Hold on, kid, he whispered. I'm coming. He stepped toward the hidden tunnel exit, but before he could enter, a low rumble shook the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling. Something massive moved above the underground caves. The beast. The same creature that chased them earlier. Ryland clenched his jaw. Everything on this planet wanted them dead. He pushed into the tunnel anyway, because Lira was alone, scared. And in the hands of machines, who saw her as nothing more than a tool. He wouldn't let them keep her. He wouldn't lose another child. Not again. That vow burned inside him as he disappeared into the darkness. ready to face whatever waited. The jungle was quieter now, as if it too was holding its breath. Raylan's boots crunched through the undergrowth, the sounds of the world around him almost deafening in their silence. Sweat dripped from his forehead, his muscles aching, but he couldn't stop. Lira was out there, taken by the machine collective. He wasn't going to let them get away with it. As he neared the extraction site, he slowed down. The dense trees parted, revealing a large clearing ahead. 3 different ships were parked in the center, massive warships, shining like jagged metallic mountains. Each had its own flag, its own army, each representing a different force that was about to collide in the jungle. The Dominion Empire, led by their ruthless General Volkar, had already set up heavy artillery around the area. Their red armor gleamed in the sun, and their soldiers were assembling in tight formations. The Machine Collective, silent and cold, sent their drones to scan the area. Their ships had sleek, silver lines, almost like a mechanical spider. And their soldiers had no faces, only glowing blue lenses where their eyes should be. And lastly, the Lost Tribe, tall and mysterious, draped in cloaks made of alien hide, were arriving in their golden ships. They moved like shadows, appearing almost one with the jungle, but their eyes burned bright with ancient power. They believed Lira was their chosen one. Rylan knelt behind a thick tree, watching it all unfold. The 3 armies had already started positioning themselves, their leaders shouting orders. The tension in the air was thick. He could feel it. They were about to fight each other. But they all wanted the same thing. Raylan's fingers tightened around his blaster. He wasn't just going to let them tear each other apart. He had to find a way to stop this. He had to get to Lira first. Suddenly, a high-pitched sound rang through the clearing, and a massive ship descended from the sky. It was the Machine Collective's flagship, the Nexus, a towering, terrifying vessel with sharp edges and glowing red energy streams running along its sides. It landed with a heavy thud, sending a shockwave through the ground. Rylan's heart skipped. Lira was on that ship. He glanced around. The Dominion soldiers immediately took up defensive positions, guns raised, eyes locked onto the new arrival. The Lost Tribe stepped forward, their hands raised in a peaceful gesture, but their eyes were anything but peaceful. Then General Volkar's voice rang out, cold and commanding. "The girl is ours. Step aside." The Lost Tribe leader, a tall woman named Karayo, lifted her chin. "She is our destiny, General Volkar. You will not take her." The Machine Collective's drones remained silent, their metallic limbs twitching in anticipation, waiting for orders. The silence was deafening. Rylan took a breath, knowing he didn't have much time. He needed to move, and move fast. But the jungle felt alive with danger. His mind raced with plans, but nothing seemed right. He needed to create a diversion. Something to shake the battlefield, something to buy him time to get to Lira. His eyes scanned the area. A series of old supply crates were stacked near the edge of the clearing. Ammo. Explosives. Perfect. Raylan moved quietly toward them, his pulse pounding in his ears. He picked up a detonator. This would make enough noise to distract the armies for a while. Give him a shot at getting to Lira. He activated the device, setting it to explode in 2 minutes. The countdown began. Rylan sprinted to a new position, staying low in the thick foliage. The armies were still facing off, too busy with each other to notice his movements. Volkar shouted, ordering his forces into position. Karal raised her staff, and the Lost Tribe began chanting, their voices carrying across the battlefield. Suddenly, the first shot rang out. A Dominion soldier fired a blast toward the Lost Tribe, who retaliated with energy beams from their staffs. The Machine Collective's drones moved forward, their arms transforming into weapons. And just like that, the battle exploded. Laser fire lit up the sky as soldiers clashed, and the air was filled with the sounds of explosions and screams. Raylan's heart pounded as chaos unfolded before him. It was exactly what he needed. He dashed toward the Machine Collective ship, keeping to the shadows, using the explosions as cover. The jungle seemed to shrink around him, every branch and rock a potential threat. He finally reached the massive transport bay door of the Nexus, but the entrance was heavily guarded by drones. Their eyes glowed a sickly blue as they scanned for threats. Rylan crouched low, his breathing steady. He could hear the countdown ticking down, the detonator in his hand, waiting for the right moment. The first explosion tore through the clearing, sending debris flying. The Machine Collective's drones whirred in confusion, their heads swiveling to assess the damage. That was his moment. Rylan charged forward, his blaster raised. He fired at the closest drone, hitting it in the side. It sparked, stumbled, and fell. The others quickly locked onto him, their weapons firing back. But Rylan was already moving, taking cover behind a large metal crate. He fired again, hitting another drone's weak spot, and it fell with a crash. One down, but many more to go. The battle raged on around him. Explosions erupted from all sides. The Dominion forces were pushing forward, but they were getting caught in crossfire from the Lost Tribe's powerful energy blasts. He wasn't sure how much time he had, but he was running out of options. He took a deep breath and made a decision. He had to get inside the Nexus, and he had to get there now. He dashed forward, weaving between blasts and fallen drones, his body moving on instinct. Finally, he reached the ship's entrance. He punched in the code on the security panel, the door opening just as more laser fire tore through the air. Inside, the walls hummed with power. He moved quickly, following the hum of energy deeper into the ship, and then he saw her. Lira was lying on a metallic table, surrounded by cold, calculating machines. The Nexus's doors had barely closed when the explosion outside shook the ship. But Lira was still unconscious, her crystal glowing weakly. Raylan's heart raced. He had found her, but the real battle was just beginning. Raylan stood frozen in the doorway of the Nexus's control room. Lira was still unconscious on the cold, metallic table, surrounded by humming machines. Her crystal glowed weakly, like a dying star. The room was quiet, too quiet. The chaos of the battle outside felt far away, as if it didn't matter anymore. For a moment, he thought about running, taking her and escaping while they still could. But he knew it wasn't that simple. The armies were still out there, and the Nexus was surrounded by the Machine Collective, ready to keep Lira locked in their grip forever. And she was their weapon. He stepped forward cautiously, his boots echoing in the empty room. The machines that had been keeping watch around her turned toward him, their glowing red eyes locking onto him. "Human detected," one of the drones said in its cold, emotionless voice. "Subject Lira is under our control." Raylan raised his blaster, aiming at the drone. "Let her go." The drone didn't flinch. "Order: secure the subject. Do not engage." Raylan's grip tightened. He couldn't fight them all. He knew that. And time was running out. But then, something changed. Lira's crystal flared to life. A pulse of light shot from her body, knocking the drones back with a blast of energy. The machines fell to the floor, sparking and hissing as their circuits fried. Rylan blinked in shock. "Lira?" He whispered. She was still lying on the table, her eyes closed, but the energy around her was growing stronger. The crystal on her forehead pulsed with light, and the room seemed to vibrate with power. Raylan felt the temperature drop as if the air itself was bending to her will. Lira's eyes flickered open. They were no longer the scared, confused eyes he had known. They were different now, glowing, ancient, knowing. She sat up slowly, her head tilting to the side as if listening to something no one else could hear. "Lira," Raylan said again, stepping closer, but she didn't respond to him. Instead, she turned her head toward the control panel across the room. The lights flickered, and the door to the ship's main reactor opened. She stood, her steps silent, her body moving with a grace that wasn't hers. It was as if she was being guided by something beyond herself. Rylan followed her, his pulse quickening. "What are you doing?" But she didn't answer. She stepped into the control room, her hands outstretched as if she could feel the ship's pulse, the energy that ran through its veins. The lights above her flickered brighter, then dimmed, as if the ship was reacting to her presence. She turned to him then, her expression unreadable. "I'm not a child anymore," she said, her voice cold, distant. "I'm the key." Raylan's heart sank. "No, you're not. You're a person. You're not some weapon." Her eyes met his, but it was like she wasn't really seeing him. "I have the power to destroy worlds, Rylan," she said, her voice low. "To create them. To save them. But I also have the power to destroy everything." He took a step forward. "Lira, don't let them control you. You don't have to be what they want. You can choose your own path." But she didn't seem to hear him. Her hand hovered over the control panel, and the lights on the wall blinked rapidly, as if the ship itself was waiting for her command. Rylan felt the weight of the decision in the air. The fate of entire planets was in her hands. But there was something darker behind her words, something ancient and overwhelming. A hum filled the room, and the energy in the air shifted. The Nexus's core was about to activate. "I can stop them all," Lira whispered, more to herself than to Rylan. "I can end this war. I can make the world how it's supposed to be." "No," Rylan said urgently, stepping forward. "You don't have to choose this path. You don't have to choose destruction. You can live. We can escape together." Lira's hand hovered over the console again, but this time her fingers trembled. "I don't know how to stop it," she said, her voice cracking. "I don't know what to do." Raylan reached out, grabbing her wrist gently. "You choose. Not them, you." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and for the first time in what felt like forever, her expression softened. The glow in her eyes dimmed slightly. "But what if I choose wrong?" she asked, her voice small and unsure. Rylan pulled her into a hug, careful of the power coursing through her body. "You're not alone," he whispered. "I'm with you. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out." For a moment, the energy around them seemed to calm, the ship's hum fading into the background. Lira closed her eyes, as if listening to a distant whisper. And then, with a deep breath, she reached forward and pressed a button on the console. The ship's lights flickered, and the energy that had been building up inside the reactor slowly died down. The pulsing glow from Lira's crystal dimmed, and the room became eerily quiet. Rylan exhaled in relief. "You did it." Lira looked up at him, her eyes clearer now, though still filled with doubt. "I don't know what happens next," she said softly. "But I'll figure it out. With you." Rylan nodded. "We'll figure it out together." But deep down, he knew they weren't out of danger yet. The war wasn't over. And even though Lira had chosen to control her power, there were still those who would stop at nothing to take it from her. But for now, at least they were together. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Raylan had hoped. The sounds of the battle echoed through the jungle as the three armies fought relentlessly. Raylan and Lira stood inside the ship's control room, their eyes fixed on the holographic map showing the planet's surface. Red dots blinked across the screen. Dominion forces, machine collective drones, and Lost Tribe warriors were still locked in a brutal conflict. Raylan's hand hovered over the blaster at his side. "We need to get out of here before they tear this place apart." Lira's crystal flickered once again, glowing faintly with power. She looked at Rylan, her expression serious but uncertain. "But I can stop it. I can end the war." Raylan turned to her. "You can't do it alone, Lira. This is bigger than you. You can't control them all." Her eyes dropped to the floor, the weight of his words sinking in. For a brief moment, she looked lost. She had the power to destroy entire armies, to wipe out the chaos that had torn this galaxy apart. But that power also made her a target. Everyone wanted to control it, to use it for their own gain. "I don't know if I can stop it," Lira whispered. "The power inside me, it's too strong. I don't know what will happen if I let it out." Raylan stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone in this. We'll face it together. We don't have to fight this war alone. You choose how this ends. You always have." Lyra's crystal pulsed gently in response. She took a deep breath, her eyes closing for a moment as if she was listening to the world around her. The air felt charged, the tension in the ship and the jungle outside heavy with possibility. "I'll stop them," she said quietly. "But I have to make them listen. I have to make them understand that I'm not a weapon." Raylan nodded. "We'll make them listen, together." He turned to the holographic map and punched in a series of commands, opening a secure channel to the armies outside. The screen flickered, and then General Volkar's face appeared, cold and ruthless, the red insignia of the Dominion Empire flashing behind him. "Release the girl, Raylan." Volkar barked, his voice cutting through the tension. "She is the key to ending this war. We will take her, whether you fight or not." Raylan's grip on the controls tightened. "No, she's not a weapon. You don't get to decide what she is." Volkar's eyes narrowed. "Then you will die like the rest of them." Before Raylan could respond, the communication ended abruptly, and the holographic map blinked red. The Dominion forces were closing in on the Nexus, their ships surrounding the area like vultures waiting to feast. Raylan's heart raced. "They didn't have much time. We need to go now," he said urgently. Moving toward the ship's exit, Lira stood still, her hand outstretched, as if feeling the pulse of the planet itself. The energy in the air shifted around her, and her crystal flared bright blue. "I have to do it," she said, her voice firm. "I won't let them destroy everything. I won't let them destroy me." Raylan reached out to stop her. "Lira, wait. We don't know what will happen if you..." But she didn't listen. With a wave of her hand, the doors to the Nexus opened, and the jungle's wild, harsh winds rushed in. The ground outside trembled as the power within her reached its peak. The armies outside stopped, momentarily paralyzed, as if the very air itself had turned against them. Then Lira spoke, her voice rising like a force of nature, carrying across the battlefield. "Enough." The sound was not just a voice, it was a command that seemed to echo through the stars. The energy around her rippled, glowing with unearthly power. Her crystal pulsed with light, and the ground beneath the three armies seemed to respond. Shaking with the force of her words, "You will listen to me." The Dominion forces hesitated, their weapons lowered for just a moment, as if uncertain. The Lost Tribe warriors paused, their ancient rituals interrupted. The Machine Collective's drones stood still, their circuits humming with confusion, for a heartbeat. The battlefield was silent. Raylan watched in awe, the power radiating from Lira like the pulse of a dying star. He had never seen anything like this before. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Then Lyra's voice rang out again. "You fight for control. You fight for power. But you forget that the true strength comes from unity, from choice. I will not be your weapon. I will not be your savior. I choose to live, not as a tool of destruction, but as a person. And you will respect that." The ground shook violently. The forces that had clashed for so long, that had fought over her like animals, suddenly stopped. The Machine Collective drones fell to their knees, their circuits short-circuiting. The Dominion soldiers lowered their weapons, their bodies frozen, as if their will had been broken. The Lost Tribe's warriors lowered their hands, their chanting silenced by the power of her command. Raylan felt a wave of relief flood through him. The fighting had stopped, but even as peace settled over the battlefield, Lyra's eyes glowed brighter than ever. She was exhausted, her body trembling, but she stood tall. She had made them listen. Rylan stepped toward her, a proud smile tugging at his lips. You did it. Lyra's voice was small, but her words were strong. I didn't do it alone. You were with me. Rylan nodded. And I'll be with you, no matter what comes next. Together, they turned toward the horizon. The battle was over for now, but the galaxy was still in pieces. The war wasn't truly won. But Lira had chosen her own path. And with Rylan by her side, they would rebuild what had been broken. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it felt like they had a chance to change it. And that was enough.